Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another video. So in this video we are going to be covering a redesign of the interior of the 1000 gallon Moray tank. So in one of my previous videos I removed the entire interior in order to remove all the sand and put in something called flat sheets on the bottom, and then installed a closed loop system in order to create some flow at the bottom and to make sure that all the gunk that's in deep in the rocks gets flushed out. But unfortunately, I have so much rock in that tank that I still have a bunch of, particles, food leftover stuck underneath the rocks where the eels can get to. So I still had a problem even after all that work. And also the eels are getting a little bit big. So the caves that I built, they are good enough for one eel to snake through the cave system. But if two or more eels meet in the same area, it was just a little bit too tight. So in this video, I decided to basically redo the entire interior and do something that you may see in some zoo displays. All right, so like I mentioned in the intro, I'm going to be redesigning the interior of this aquarium. And the reason why I'm doing that is basically I have multiple reasons. So for one, the eels are getting a lot bigger, much faster than I anticipated. The tessellata, for example, eats every day and huge portions every day. And he started doing that ever since I put in the green moray and the zebra moray. And I think he feels like he has to compete over the food, so he started to eat a lot more, which furthers his growth. Secondly, so what I mean with that is that because they grow so fast, the caves that I built here are actually starting to get a little bit tight, not for one eel to move through, but if we have multiple eels in the same area, it kind of creates a little bit of a traffic jam, if you will. So also the reason why I want to redo this a little bit is because even though the closed loop system that I installed does a really good job in searing up the dirt, there's still food that sometimes gets trapped. So I just put in some food in earlier, and sometimes fish or shrimp or whatever gets stuck underneath the rocks, and only small invertebrates are able to get to it, or my bristle stars. So I decided to basically go a different route. I know it's a little bit of an experiment, but if it doesn't work, I can just go back to what I have now. But basically what I want to do is I want to create or scape this tank similar to what zoos do. So especially zoo displays with multiple big moray eels, what they usually do is they place a bunch of large flower pots all over the place. And basically, a single flower pot is the cave for a single eel, unless maybe the giant moray and the tessellata moray who have grown up together been together their whole life. They may share a pot, but I will be able to create multiple caves, create some nice separation when it comes to territory. We'll have a lot less problems, with in the future with any kind of aggressions as the eels become more mature. Sometimes that's a problem, especially with tessellata eels and green morays as well. I will leave this PVC pipe system in place because the viper moray, for example, he will not get as thick as the giant moray or the green moray, for example. You see him right here. So he's growing very fast as well, eats every single day. And because of that, I decided to redo this interior design as well for him. But like I said, the pipe system that I have right now, it will remain in place. What I will be doing in addition to multiple different types of flower pots is I will create a few more of these 6-inch PVC tunnels. So this one goes all the way across to the other end, and you can actually see the giant moray on the other end. So basically maybe 2 more of these, and maybe with an opening like this, like in the center, so an eel can escape the pipe halfway through if I want to, or enter it halfway through. And then we'll probably install or place multiple large flower pots on the bottom, and then stack some smaller ones on top. So I have to see how heavy they are, because I'm going to be using clay pots. So they are pretty heavy, and obviously I have to step on the ladder and carry this all the way over, and I have to do it by myself. I don't want to hit the front panel and cause scratches, or shatter a flower pot, because I cannot hold on to it because it's too heavy. So I have to figure out how large the pots can be for me to safely place them everywhere and stack them. But I'm thinking about the bottom flower pots, the ones that basically will rest on top of this pipe, to go from here maybe to here, so that's around 34 inches. And then the ones on top of that will be shorter and lighter for smaller eels, or the green moray, for example, who is only about 2.5 feet right now, and then he can move to a different flower pot. But basically, I will have a lot of hiding places for the eels, which is a little bit better than just a mountain of rock. Unfortunately, it's going to look very artificial, and you will be able to see the piping there for the closed loop system. And but that's okay. It will be a lot easier for me to clean the tank after the redesign, because I'm going to be leaving the bottom area basically completely open. So you see these feet of this PVC. So the flower pots will be stacked on top. So basically the entire bottom area is open, and I may be able to even add, I don't know, maybe stingray or a small shark. I'm still thinking about that. Trying to figure out if this, flat sheets that are installed here, if they are too rough. But I don't think so, but I have to talk to a fish store about that. But yeah, so there's going to be no more dirt accumulating on the bottom, and once the flower pots are all placed all over the place, I can just point a power hose into each opening of the flower pot to stir the dirt up, and push it out into the open, so it can be drained through this drain right here. And yeah, so one problem, of course, is that the rock work provides an important piece of the biological filtration, because this is where nitrifying and denitrifying bacteria grows on. So the bacteria in the outside that is exposed to the the oxygen and the water, that's the nitrifying bacteria. So bacteria that will convert ammonia into nitrite, and from nitrite to nitrate. And then deep in the rocks we have the denitrifying bacteria, so the bacteria that will consume the nitrates. And so basically, if I remove all of that, obviously I'm going to lose a ton of biological filtration. Here's a nice shot of the giant moray. So yeah, basically in order to combat that, I'm just going to be adding a lot more CK matrix into the sump. I had a similar problem in the beginning with algae grow when I removed all the sand and replaced it with the flat sheets. And the sand, obviously, I think I had like a couple 100 pounds of sand, like a 3-inch thick sand bed in a 1,000 gallon system. So that was a lot of biological filtration that I lost. But this bead filter actually does a great job in replacing the biological filtration of the sand. And this right here is what I'm talking about when I talk about CK matrix. So this is the pond version. So I'm adding a lot more into the this 55 gallon tank as well as the next two. So they're going to be full with this biological media to help replace the rocks that I have in this tank right now. Obviously, with the flower pots, they have a big surface area as well, but it's not very porous, so it's not going to be providing a lot of surface area for bacteria to grow. But yeah, I am going to start emptying the rocks. I will try to save as many crabs that live in this tank as possible. So basically, I'm going to remove the rocks, place them somewhere on the bottom of the floor with some towels, and then wait for the crabs to come out, and then just pick them up and put them into my 270 gallon tank. And obviously any micro animals or living creatures are not going to be able to survive this, but that's okay. That's not that important for a big Moray Eel aquarium. And yeah, so I'm going to start this project, remove the rocks, and start placing the flower pots, and that should not take that long, so maybe 1 to 2 days, and then we'll see how that goes. Okay, so the flower pots have just been delivered, and we have 4 big ones, 34 inches tall, 2 smaller ones, I think they're 26 inches tall, and then some, I think they're called strawberry pots. And these are going to be very useful for the smaller eels, like the Viper Moray, which is not as thick as the other ones. And you know, he may of course outgrow them, but at least he has something different. And yeah, then I'm going to be stacking them in different ways to make it look interesting, and then hopefully the eels will enjoy their new caves. Quick update on the interior redesign. So what I'm doing is I'm slowly draining the water, and that is because I have a lot of crabs in this aquarium, a lot of emerald crabs. And before, when I removed the rock, there would always be some crabs, you know, somewhere deep in the crevices, and then I would have to wait until they crawl out, and then I can grab them. So basically what I'm doing is by slowly draining the water, I'm giving the crabs time to go back into the water, and then just remove the rocks, and being, you know, certain that there are no more crabs in there. But also I'm putting them in here in this Amazon swimming pool briefly to see if anything else crawls out of there, and then I will take the rocks outside because I will no longer use them. Okay, the water is now, I would say, a foot, and now it's time to start removing all the rocks and also the Moray eels, because now we have basically only this very shallow area for all 5 eels and all 28 monofish and everything else that lives here to be confined to that space. So I don't want there to be any aggression, so I have to act rather fast now. So again, remove all the rocks and then catch the eels and put eels into these bins, and maybe one in this tank, and then I need to figure out about the zebra moray maybe in another smaller brood bin. But yeah, then I will do the work on the redesign. All right, it is time now to catch the eels. Here's the tessellata, here is the giant moray and the Viper Moray. I don't know where the green moray and the zebra is, but we will find them pretty soon, I hope. All right, it's now the next day. Got some rest after taking out all the rocks in this tank. And here now we have all the flower pots, and I think I have too many actually to put all of them, because there still needs to be some swimming space, but we'll try, you know, what I can. Also have some new 6-inch PVC piping, and I found these connectors here, so I may utilize that as well, but we'll see. Okay, so I just finished what I believe is the best aquascape using these pots. And as you can see, I did not use all the pots. First of all, from the big ones, only 3 would fit at the bottom. And the shorter ones, they're just as wide as the bigger ones. So yeah, I cannot stack them on top either, so they're just too big. So basically what I did or decided to do, I used 2 of the very large ones, so the tallest ones, and then the smaller one back there, I basically used that one for right here. And that is because I noticed when I put a big one there, it would just block the entire side view. So this way I can at least, you know, have a little bit of a view from the side as well. Otherwise this pot would be all the way up to here and basically just block everything. So at least this way I have a little bit of a side view. And then the strawberry pots, I placed them in between. Obviously it's very a lot of water spots right now, so you can't see a lot, but not sure if I do something on the left here. But for now I think I'm going to fill it up, clean all the front panel, the front and side panel, and then we'll have a second look, and then I think the eels can go back in. right, so it's now been 2 days since I redesigned the interior of this tank, and obviously this is a very different look. So before, I would always try to make it look as natural as possible. I wanted like a slice of nature in my living room, but the rocks eventually became too much of a problem. There would always be food getting stuck underneath the rocks, and only the bristle stars and the hermit crabs would be able to get to them. And obviously these are bigger pieces of food meant for eels, so a lot of it would just rot. Or another problem was the blue spiny lobster. He would always grab the biggest piece and then hide it somewhere in a cave, but only eat like a quarter of it, and the rest would rot away. So now it's a lot easier for me to keep this tank clean. The closed loop system now works a lot better too, because there's literally no rocks except for these that I put in there. These I put in there because the cleaner wrasses, they actually sleep in the holes at night. So that's the only reason why I put a couple of these rocks back in. But I also noticed that they discovered that there's like a hole in this 3D background, so they can go behind it and sleep there. So if they keep doing that, then they will eventually take the rocks out. But yeah, eels are getting used to this new interior design. They're only using the pipe system right now, and you can see they're all, they're having trouble finding a spot for each eel. I mean, it's big enough for all eels to find a spot. But yeah, they're not really going into these pots permanently. The tessellata has gone inside and out, but he doesn't stay in there, and none of the other eels do. I know that the Viper Moray, he likes to squeeze into tiny crevices, so he won't be using that for a long time. He will probably only be using the pipe system. And yeah, but the other eels, they should eventually get used to it. And it will be a lot easier for me to keep it clean. Before, when I had rocks in there, I would always blow off the rocks with a power head before I opened the bottom drain. And it would always, cause really cloudy water. There would be so much fine, debris on the rocks and all the, nooks and crevices. So, yeah, without the rocks, obviously it's going to be a lot easier. But another problem then, of course, is I lost a bunch of biological filtration. All the bacteria that lived on the rocks. So I did add a bunch of more CK matrix into the sumps. And yeah, hopefully that will help offset that. But I will also be buying a bigger protein skimmer. I just don't want to do as many water changes anymore, not every week. It costs a lot of money and salt, because I'm changing 25% every week, so that's 250 gallons. So that's a lot of salt, a lot of water. So if I can cut it down to every other week or maybe once a month, that would be great. But yeah, now that all the rocks are gone, this will take a while to achieve. And other than that, fish are very happy. I believe eels will get used to this. The strawberry pots in the back, those are probably most suitable for the Viper Moray if he decides to go to inside any of these pots. But if not, then that's fine too. And yeah, so this is it for this video. In the next video, I will be talking about possibly getting some additional tank mates for this tank, because what I've noticed is, the eels, they will stay in the pipes and in the pots for most of the day, and at night they come out sometimes because they are nocturnal and they like to swim too. And obviously, when it's time to feed, they come out. The monos during the day, they occupy the upper part of the tank. But then for the bottom, I don't really have much living on the bottom except for small hermit crabs and the spiny lobster, who not only lives on the bottom but also climbs up, the back walls and the side wall. So I am thinking about adding something for the bottom, and because sometimes, the eels, I try to feed them until they are full, so to avoid any aggression over food, and sometimes I add a little bit too much, and then now it's going to be a lot easier to get it out of the tank. But it would be helpful to have an animal that lives on the bottom that is kind of like a like a living trash bin, if you want. So I am thinking about adding something there. I'm not sure if it's stingrays or what else, flounders, or maybe bigger horseshoe crabs or even sharks. So I'm still thinking about that, but in the next video I will very likely be showing you what I've decided to go with. And until then, yeah, I hope you like this interior, new interior. I think it looks really cool, especially when it's dark outside and this is the only thing lighting up my living room. Yeah, let me know what you think. I may have to find something to cover, obviously these visible sections of the closed loop system. I was thinking about putting one of these strawberry pots on top of it and have these return nozzles come out of these openings. But I was kind of a little bit in a rush. I didn't want the eels to be in the brood bins for too long, one day at most. And so yeah, but something to think about in the future. But if not, I may just get used to the look, so who knows. So yeah, thank you again. Like I said, in the next video, I will be adding some tank mates that will help keep the bottom of the part, more alive. And hopefully you will join me for that video as well. Thanks, guys.